Hey guys, welcome back. In this video we shall learn how to use Bootstrap from scratch. So Bootstrap is an open source CSS framework that makes writing CSS very easy. In simple terms, Bootstrap is a technology that makes writing CSS very easy. So in Bootstrap, you are going to be using classes to implement lots of CSS properties. Actually, someone can build a website from scratch to finish without using the regular CSS that we all know. So let's go over to setting up Bootstrap for our project. Over here, I have my VS Code open and I'm in a folder called Bootstrap Tutorial. This is my folder. I have nothing currently in my folder. So to start a website, as we all know, we come over here in our folder, we create an index.html file. We create a folder also where we're going to have our CSS file, and in that folder we are going to create our index.css file. So before now, to start our website, we are going to come here in our index.html file and generate a boilerplate like so. But with Bootstrap, we are going to head over to the Bootstrap website, which is getbootstrap.com, and click on Get Started. Then we are going to scroll down to the starter template. Here is the starter template. All of this here is the starter template. So we are going to copy this by clicking on this button over here that says copy, and we are going to head over to our index.html file and we are going to paste all of that. So let's get rid of this comment here, get rid of this comment also, and let's also get rid of this comment here. Now let's save that. So with these, we have set up Bootstrap for our project. So if you want to add Bootstrap to a website that you have already created using just HTML and CSS, you head over to the Bootstrap website also, and you grab these three script tags here by clicking copy. When you click on copy, head over to your website and paste it before the closing body tag, just as we have here. And the last thing you do is to grab the CSS link here, click copy also, and go over to the head tag and paste it just as we have here. With that, you have set up Bootstrap for your website and you can start using the Bootstrap classes and everything we are going to learn in this video. So there's another way to set up Bootstrap for your project, which is by going to the website and downloading the Bootstrap files. But I'd recommend this method because this method is the CDN method and it doesn't need you to download any file. All you just have to do is come over here, grab the starter template and paste in your index.html file. So let's get rid of this title here. Let's call this Bootstrap project. Let's save that. Let's get rid of this h1 tag here and let's save that. So the next thing we are going to do is to use the Google Fonts API on our website. So before that, let's link our CSS file. Let's say link, and let's pass in a type attribute that's going to be set to text/CSS. So let's go to the Google Fonts API, fonts.google.com, and let's select a font family. I'm going to be using the Poppins family, and I'll go with regular 400. So select this style, click on the embed option there, grab this link here, paste that in the head tag in our index.html file, and I'm going to grab this other link here and I'll paste that in my index.css file by throwing in a wildcard, and I'll also set this to 0 and I'll set this to 0. So with these, I have integrated the Google Fonts API on my website. So let's pass in a h1 tag and let's see if it's working. This is the first tag on here. Let's save that. So let's open our website in our browser. To do that, you can use your live server. If you don't have a live server installed in your VS Code, head over to view, click on extensions, search for live server and get it installed. But I'm going to be using the regular method we have been using on this channel, which is coming over to your folder. You right click on the index.html file in your folder, select open with, and click on Google Chrome. As you can see, we have this. This is the first tag on here, and our Poppins font family is active. So let's go back to our VS Code and let's get rid of this. The first concept we are going to learn in Bootstrap is typography. We are going to talk about the heading tag in Bootstrap. We all know in regular HTML, we have the H1 tag, H2 to H6. So if I say H1 and I say heading, it means I want to use the H1 heading tag, which is this big, right? In Bootstrap, we can pass in the H1 tag as a class in a paragraph tag. So I can have this P. This is a heading tag, and I'd save that. So let's go back to our browser, let's reload our page, and let's see what we have. As you can see, this is displayed as a paragraph tag. Now we want this to display as a heading tag using Bootstrap. So to do that, like I said earlier, Bootstrap uses classes to invoke its functionality. So we are going to pass in a class attribute in the opening P tag, and we are going to set that to H1. So let's save that. Let's go back to our page. Let's reload our page to see what we have. As you can see, it's back to a H1 tag. So we can also go there, pass in H2, H3 to H6. So that's all for the heading tag in Bootstrap. The next thing we are going to talk about is text muting. Text muting in Bootstrap. So I want to pass in a H1 tag. That's like this. I want to pass in a H1 tag here, and I'll write, this is the first time you are seeing this. I want you to take note of how this looks on the browser. As you can see, the color of this text is black, and it can be disturbing to the eyes. So with the text mute class, we can actually make that look better. So we can come here in our class attributes, just use a space. With the space right there, you can pass in another Bootstrap class. So we are going to say text muted here. So when I go back to the browser and I reload the page, you'd see this looks better. It's no more disturbing to the eyes. It's taking a lighter shade of black. So that's how to use the text muted class in Bootstrap. And in this class attribute here, if I want to pass in another Bootstrap class, I'd come here after text muted, I'll pass in a space and I'll write another class here. If I want to write another class after that, I'll use a space. So just use space to pass in another Bootstrap class in your class attributes. So if I want to pass in a custom class that is not a Bootstrap class, let's say I want to pass in a class called Joseph, I would still use the space to do that. So this is not a Bootstrap class, this is a custom class that I can use in my index.css file to style my HTML elements. So that's that. So the next class in our typography section will be the display class. We are going to learn how to use the display class to display our text document in Bootstrap. So let's have this P tag here. Let's say my file. Let's save that. So using the display class, we'll come here, pass in a class, and we're going to say display 1. Let's save this, go back to our browser. Let's reload our browser to see what we have. As you can see, this looks very big. This looks bigger than the H1 tag. So the only difference is the heading class has H1 to H6, but the display class has display 1 to display 4. So let's set that to 4 and let's reload our browser. As you can see, this is the smallest display class in Bootstrap. So that's how to use display in Bootstrap. If you have a case where you need your text file to be that big in Bootstrap, you can use the display class to do that. So the next thing we are going to learn under typography in Bootstrap is how to align our text in our website. So let's say I have this tag here and I say this is my text. If I want to align this text to the center, I'll come over here and I'll pass in the Bootstrap class that says text center. As simple as that. When I go back to my browser and I reload the page, as you can see, this is sitting on the center of my page. If I want to align this text to the right side of my page, all I'll come here and say, I would take center away and I'll say text right. When I reload the page, you see it has gone to the right side of the page. If I want it to come back to the left side of the page, I'll come here, I'll change right to left. So that's how to align text elements in Bootstrap. So let's move over to creating lists in Bootstrap. So before now, the regular way to create lists in HTML is to use the unordered list tag, which is the UL tag, or the OL tag, which is the ordered list tag. So let's use the unordered list tag to create a list here. So we'll have our list items, which is going to be taking our items. I'd say 1, 2, and 3 right there. So let's go to our browser, let's reload and see what we have. So this is our list here, 1, 2, and 3. Now, as we all know, we mostly use lists in HTML to create our navigation links. So in that case, we don't want our list to be displayed in the block format like this. We want this to be displayed in an inline format, like what we normally have in our website, where you have the home, about, contact us, and product links staying on this corner of the page. So to make your list items display in an inline format without using CSS, you'd go over to your VS Code, and in your UL tag, you pass in a class and you call that list inline. Now in your items, you'd pass in a class also. You call this list inline item. So you'd copy this class and you paste it in this li tag also, and in this one. Now when we save that and we go to our browser, let's reload our browser to see what we have. As you can see, this is displayed in an inline format, just the way we all want our list items to be displayed in a nav bar. So that's how to use Bootstrap to format our list and our list items. So over to the most important concept in Bootstrap, the reason why you should always use Bootstrap. And in my opinion, I would suggest you don't use Bootstrap for the whole of your project. I would suggest you use some very good features in Bootstrap and you stick to writing some of your CSS code for your project. But Bootstrap has its advantage, and the coolest advantage of Bootstrap is the grid system Bootstrap has. So in this section, we are going to learn about the grid system in Bootstrap. And the grid system in Bootstrap is very easy to understand. So let's go over to our web page. Let me explain this. In Bootstrap, a whole web page like this is divided into 12 columns for each row. So this empty web page we have here is 1 row and 12 columns. Rows are horizontal and columns are vertical. So using these as an explanation, this blue page here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So what we have here, we have 5 columns and 4 rows. So here is the first column, here is the second column, here is the third, the fourth, and the fifth. Here is the first row, here is the second row, here is the third row, and here is the fourth row. So the use of the grid system in Bootstrap is very essential in placing objects when building our website. So let's go back to our VS Code. Let's learn how to create a column and a row in Bootstrap with the grid system. So in the grid system, we are going to be using div tags. So the first div tag we are going to create will have a class of container. That's the container tag. So inside the container tag, we are going to create a row. So the way to create a row is very simple. Just use your div tag, pass in a class, and call this row. With these, you have created a row. So far we have created a container and we have created a row. So the next thing we are going to create is a column. And the way to create a column in Bootstrap is very easy. Use the div tag also, pass in a class, and say col, which stands for column. With these, we have created a row and a column inside a container. So let's go to our CSS. Let's add a color for container and let's see what we are going to have. So let's say container. Let's put a background color of blue. And the reason we don't have this container here spanning from the edge here, spanning from the left edge here to the right, is because we are using a container tag. So if I come over here in my HTML file and I set this to container fluid, and I go to my CSS file and I set this to container fluid, not container. When I go back to our browser and I reload the page, you'd see I have this spanning from edge to edge. So you can choose to use whichever one you want to use. So most times we are going to find ourselves dealing with the container class more than we deal with the container fluid class. So let's go back to our index.html file and let's change this to container in our CSS file, and in our HTML file let's change this to container also. So there's something I want to explain here. What I want to explain is how to use the 12 column system that Bootstrap has. So let's say I want this here to stay on my page and use just 2 columns. I'm going to come over here and I'll say dash md dash 2. So when I come beneath this and I pass in another class of call md dash 2 and I pass in a p tag there and I say this is another, and I come over here and I pass in call md dash 2 again and I pass in a p tag and I say another one, and I save that. When I go to my browser and I reload my page, you'd see I have this. This is Bootstrap, this is another one, another one. So this takes 2 columns, this takes 2 columns, and this takes 2 columns. So we have used 6 columns on our grid system here. So we have 6 columns left. So the concept of the grid system is that if I want to place an image on my page like so, I'm going to select 6 of these columns here by just coming here and changing this 2 to 6. Then I would get rid of all of this here. So if I change this to 6 and I come beneath this div tag, always take note, 1 row makes 12 columns. So I have this 6 here, which means I am left with 6 columns for this row. So if I use this like so, when I say md6, it means I have used up all the columns in this row. If I want to create another row, I would come beneath the div that has the class of row and I would create another row like so. But take note, I'm doing this inside the div that has the container class. So I have 2 rows currently in my container class. So I can still do the same thing. I would say class call md. Let's set this to 4. Let's set the next div tag to 4. Call md 4. This means I have used up 8 columns in this row. I'm left with just 4. So I can divide that 4 by just saying class call md2, and I'd come here, I'd say div class call md2. So if we add up all of this, 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 2 is 10, and plus 2 is 12. This means I have used up all the columns in this row. So let's pass in a dummy p tag there, and let's just call this dummy for the first time. Let's copy that and let's paste that, and let's paste that, and let's paste that. Let's save that. Let's go to our page and let's reload our page to see what we have. As you can see, we have this is Bootstrap here, and we have 1 dummy, 2 dummy, 3 and 4. So if you take note, the space between this dummy here on the left side and this other dummy is bigger than the space between this dummy and this dummy right here. And that's because I used two columns here, and over here I used 4 columns. So that's the grid system. I'll keep explaining how the grid system works. Let's pass in something here. Let's say this is another tag. Let's save that. Let's go back to our browser. Let's reload that. As you can see, we used six columns each for our p tags here. So it's divided the container into 2. This is Bootstrap here, is taking 6 columns. This is another tag here, is taking 6 columns. So let's go back to our VS Code and let me explain something here. Over here in my column class, you have seen me writing call MD6. What MD means is medium. We also have call SM, and we have call LG, and we also have call XS. So if I say call SM6, this is going to mean when the screen size is small and upwards to extra large, use 6 columns on the web page to display this. If I say call XS6, I would say when the screen size is very small, like a mobile phone screen, upwards, use 6 columns on the web page to display this. XS is for mobile screens, SM is for tablet screens, MD is for small laptop screens, and LG is for your laptop screens, your desktop screens, or a television screen. So when you see us using the MD screen size here, it means this website that we are designing is being designed for a laptop screen, a television screen, or a desktop screen. So we are going to design this same website for a mobile phone screen and a tablet screen, and that's going to make our website very responsive across all platforms. So I want to explain this further for us to understand more. So let's come here, let's get rid of this container class style that we have there. Let's go back to our index.html file. So let's use our inline style attributes to add background colors to all of our columns here. So we are going to say style. Let's set the background color to blue, and let's set another style attribute here, and let's set the background color to yellow. So let's come over here to the next row. Let's set a style attribute. So let's set a background color here to red, and let's set another style attribute here. Let's set a background color to aqua. Let's save that, and let's set another style attribute with a background color to black. And our final column here is going to take a style attribute with a background color set to blue violets. So let's save this. Let's go to a browser to see what we have. Let's reload our page. As you can see, this explains the grid system better for us. As you can see, we used 6 columns here and 6 columns here, and here we used 4 columns. We used 4 columns here. They are both equal. We used 2 columns here and 2 columns here. So you can manipulate the grid system to suit any object you want to place on your web page. So this is how to use the grid system in Bootstrap. So let's go over to our VS Code and let's get rid of all of this. So the next thing we are going to learn about in Bootstrap is how to apply margins and paddings in Bootstrap. In Bootstrap, you can apply margins and paddings as classes. So let's have this p tag here that says this is my class. So let's go to our web page. Let's reload this, and we have this is my class here. If I want to add a margin property to this object here, I can come here, pass in a class, and I'll say M. This stands for margin, and I'll add the hyphen sign there, and I'll say 3. This means I am adding a margin to all of the sides of my object, the bottom, the top, the left, and the right. So when I go to my page and I reload the page, you'd see I have a margin effect on the top, on the left. We won't see these on the bottom, and we won't see this on the right side. If you want to add a margin property to just the top of an element, you'd say MT, which stands for margin top. And let's set this to 4. When you go back to your browser, you reload the page. As you can see, I have a margin effect applied just to the top of my element. Now I don't have any margin effect on the left side of my element. So you can also say MR, which is margin right, ML, which is margin left, and MB, which is margin bottom. So that's that for margin. To apply a padding on an element in HTML, you use the letter P. So this is a padding on all sides of our elements. So when I reload the page, you can see I have a padding here. We can see the effect at the top of our element, at the left side of the element, but we can't notice the effect on the right side or at the bottom of the element. To apply a padding for just the top of the element, you say PT, which stands for padding top, and PB for padding bottom, PL for padding left, and PR for padding right. So that's that for margins and paddings in Bootstrap. So the next thing we are going to talk about is how to apply colors in Bootstrap using classes. So that's very easy. Just head over to the Bootstrap website, come over here in the search bar and type colors. We have colors for our text elements. So text primary, text secondary. So if you want to apply this in your HTML file, you just pass it in as a class, text primary. So let's go to our VS Code and let's use this, and let's see, this is a text line. So let's pass in a text primary class there. Let's say text primary, and let's save that. Let's go back to our browser. Let's reload our page to see what we have. As you can see, the color has changed to blue, and we did that using the text primary class in Bootstrap. So you can come here and select any of the text color classes you wish to use, then go to your index.html file and you paste that in as a class. So let's take this color and see what we are going to have. Text light, BG dark. So let's go to our VS Code and let's take this out and let's paste that. BG stands for background. So we are going to have a light text on a dark background. So let's go to our page. Let's reload to see what we have here. And this is it. So we have a light text on a dark background. You can come here and play around with all of these classes to see the effect it's going to give to you. So let's move over to colors for our links, for our anchor tags. So with this, you can create an anchor tag and pass in text primary just like we did in our P tag. But this time around, you are not going to pass in the class in the P tag. You would pass the class in the anchor tag, which is the A tag here. So that's how to apply colors for our anchor tags in Bootstrap. So over to the background color in Bootstrap. As you can see, we have the BG primary class, BG secondary, BG success, BG danger, and we have all of these down to BG transparent. So BG, like I said earlier, stands for background. So if I take a BG danger class here and I come to my VS Code and I remove this class here and I say BG danger and I save that and I go to my browser and I reload the page, as you can see, I have a red background here because I selected the BG danger class. Now for those of us that will want to copy this BG danger here, make sure you don't copy the BG danger with the dot sign there. This dot sign indicates that this is a class, because as we all know, in CSS, if we want to style a class, we call the class name using the dot sign there. So to make things easy for you, you can come here and select BG primary that goes without the dots notation before it. You can also select any one you want here. Actually, this is the best place to come select your classes. As you can see, what we have here, we have P3, MB2, BG primary, text white. This means padding set to 3 on all sides, margin bottom set to 2, background set to primary, and the text color set to white. So this is how to set a color for your text, a color for your link, and a background color in Bootstrap. The next thing I want to talk about is how to apply shadows on your web page using the Bootstrap shadow class. So let's say I have a div tag here, and in my div tag I have a P tag that says this is a tag, and I save that. Now if I want to add a shadow to that div tag, and let's come over here, click in the search bar there and type in shadows. Click on that and you come here. As you can see, we have different types of shadows here. I'll be selecting the regular shadow class. So this is the regular shadow class here. I'll come to my VS Code and I'll paste that after the BG info class. Now when I save that and I go to my browser, when I reload the page, you'd see I have this shadow effect on my page. So that's how to use the shadow class in Bootstrap. As simple as that. Now in the shadow class, we have this P3, which is padding set to 3, margin bottom set to 5, the background set to white, and there's a rounded effect there. So if you want to change the padding from 3 to, let's say, 2, you can do that. If you want to change the margin bottom from 5 to 4, you can also do that. If you want to change the background from BG white to, let's say, BG success, you can do that. And if you want to get rid of the rounded effect here, you can also do that. So the next thing we are going to talk about in Bootstrap is how to use the Bootstrap components. Bootstrap components makes building a website very easy. So if I want to have a card, a carousel, a navbar, or a form on my website, I can come over here to the Bootstrap website, and by the side here, I'll click on components. As you can see, we have lots of components here. We have badge, breadcrumbs, buttons, cards, carousels. So let's use a navbar. So I'll click on navbar there, and I'll come here. This is one navbar. This is how it's going to look on your website, and this is the code for it there. So I'll come down, I'll select these navbar here. So this is how it's going to look on my website, and this is the code here. So this is simply copying and pasting. You can just edit a few things there to get your custom desire. So let's copy that. Let's come over here and let's paste it in here. Save that. So let's go back to our browser and let's refresh our browser to see what we have. So as you can see, this is my navbar created for me on the fly. I don't need to go into my HTML and start writing my UL tags, my LI tags, and all of that to get a navbar. So this makes Bootstrap very, very fun to use. With these, I can come here and I can change this from home to about. I can change this here from futures to services, and I can change pricing here to contact, or I can even get rid of this anchor tag here that has the home item and just stick with the rest, or get rid of this two beneath also, and I'll duplicate services and I'll change this to about us, change this to product, change this to contact us. So let's go back to our web page and let's see what we have. Let's save that. So if I reload this, you see everything here is services, 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 services. Now the navbar that we have there is where our logo is going to stay, and this is it right here. So I can change this and say logo, or if I have a logo in my project, I would use the img tag and I'll pass in an src attribute and I'll set the path to my image. So as simple as that. So it's all copying and pasting with Bootstrap when you get to using components. So let's reload this. You see I have logo written here. So I want us to take note of something. As you can see, we have a BG Lite class here. You get rid of that, and you can pass in BG info, and we reload our page. As you can see, this has changed to this color. You can actually take that out and use custom CSS to add a color to your navbar, or you can use an inline CSS property like so to add a background color to your navbar. For me to take all of these items from the left side of the page to the right side of the page, I'd come here, and in this class that has navbar nav, I'll throw in margin left LG, which stands for large, and I'll set that to auto. When I go back to my page and I reload my page, you'd see I have everything sitting on the right side of the page. So let's move over to the next topic, which is the display property. Now, the display property in Bootstrap is used to make our website responsive. You know, in the regular CSS, we have to use media queries to make our website responsive for mobile screens, tablets, and desktops. In Bootstrap, we are going to use the display property, and this is how to use the display property. You come over here in the search bar, you search for display property, you click that, you come over here to the table. We have a table here. Now, the table has two sections, the screen size and the class. If you want anything to be hidden on all screens, you use this class. If you want anything to be hidden only on mobile phone screens, you use this class. So that's just that for this table. If you want anything to be visible on all screen sizes, you use this class here, the dblock class. Same goes for everything being visible on mobile phone screen sizes. Use this class. So we are going to use this table to hide some things on mobile phone screens and display some things on laptop screens. Also hide some things on laptop screens and display some things on mobile phone screens. So let's go over to our VS Code. To do that, I like using a section tag to wrap all of my section. If I want to create a banner section, I'd use a section tag and I'll wrap that and I'll give it an ID set to banner section. And inside here, I can pass in a p tag that says this is my section for the banner, and I'll save that. So when I go to my browser and I reload the page, you see I have this. This is my section for the banner. So let's go back to our VS Code and let's pass in a background color for this. So when I say class bg info and I save that and I reload my page, so everyone is going to see that. So this is my website for now. I can use this class here to hide this on a mobile phone screen. I may want something different for my mobile phone screen size. So I'm going to grab this class here, the dnon.dsm block, to hide this on a mobile display. I would come here, I would create a class here, and I'll pass in the class. Always remember to take out this dot sign because that's not part of the code. It just indicates that this is a class. So when I go back to my page and I reload, you'll notice no change. But when I toggle this page to a mobile screen size, as you can see here, nothing is displayed here. And that's because it's a mobile phone screen size. So when I come here and I select iPad, you would see I have this showing up. And that's because it's no more a mobile phone screen size. This is an iPad screen size. So, and this is possible because I selected XS. XS is the size for mobile phone screens. And I selected hidden only on mobile phone screen sizes. And I passed in this class. So that's why we have that showing up like that. So if I go back to a mobile phone screen size, like Pixel 2, nothing is showing. Now we are going to build a landing page so that everything we have learned here is going to be understood better. So let's get rid of all of this here. So to start creating our landing page, we are going to create a section here with an ID of nav section. Put that like that. And now let's go to our Bootstrap website. Let's grab a nav bar there and let's paste the nav bar. Let's grab this one and we'll paste that. Close that tag there. So let's go to our web page to see what we have currently. We have this. So I would clear this out. I don't have a logo for now, and I'll put this on the right side of the page with the MLLG auto, and I would refresh my page to see this. So our nav links are now on the right side of the page. So the next thing to implement is taking out the BG Light class there, and I'll set the background to just white as it is. So I want to add a shadow to my nav bar. So I would come here and I'll say shadows. I'll select that. I would use the regular shadow class, which is this. So to paste this in my section, I'll create a class and I'll paste that in the class there. So when I come to my page here and I reload the page, you see we have this. So let's go back to our VS Code and let's create a banner section for ourselves. So I would create another section with an ID set to banner desktop, and I would create a container here, a class of container, and I'll create a row with the class attribute there, and I'll divide the page into two. So I would say call MD6. So let's create the second section, which is going to be called MD6 also. So currently I have used the 12 columns in my row. So over here, I'm going to pass in a H1 tag, and I'll say welcome. And I'll pass in a P tag here that says to continue. I'll come beneath that and I'll create a button, and I'll say click here, and that's that. So when I reload this page, you'd see I have that here. I'm going to work on that. So over here, I'm going to create a div tag, and in my div tag, I'm going to pass in something basic. Let's say H1 tag. I'm going to say something basic. And that's that. So when I come back here and I reload the page, you see I have this here. So let's apply some colors on our website. Let's go to web color picker. So let's use this color over here. Let's select some colors here. So let's go with that. You pick the hex code here. So to apply that color we just picked from web color picker, we are going to call this ID in our CSS file, and that's banner desktop. So let's say hash banner desktop, and let's pass in the background color there, and let's paste that. So when you reload this, you would have this. Now we have an issue. There is a margin between this section and our nav section, and that's because in our shadow class here we have a margin bottom of 5. So we can pick this class out of the section tag here and place it. Let's place it here and see what we have. Put an MB1 there, and let's reload our page again. That looks better, so we can work with this. So let's continue building our website. So as you can see, so there's something I want to point out. When creating a website, always define a height for your section. So in the banner section here, I'm going to use the inline CSS method to define a height for my section, and I would say 100 VH, and this will set the height of my screen size to 100 vertical heights. So when I reload that, as you can see, our height set for us. So anything we do in this section will be within this height that is assigned to this section. So let's start styling our text files that we have here. We have the H1 tag, the continue, and click here. I want something basic to stay at the center of the 6 columns here. So to do that, I would come here, I would use a class, and I'll set this to text center. I'll save that. So when I reload the page, you'll notice the change there. So let's set a text color for all our text elements on this website. I'm going to do that by throwing in a class, and I'll say text white, text muted. So I'll copy this class and I'll pass it in for all my text elements over here. Okay, let me take that out. So I'll just pass in text white here, text muted, and I'll save that. So let's go to our browser to see what we have. So this looks better. So the next thing to do here is to bring down all of these elements to somewhere around this level. So we are going to do that using regular CSS properties. So I'm going to grab the H1 tag here, and I'll use the margin top property to bring that down. So I'm going to say banner desktop H1, and I'll set margin top to 150 pixels. I'll save that. Now Note that this is also a H1 tag. So whatever I set for this tag will also affect this tag because it's a H1 tag. So let's reload our page to see that. So this looks better. The next thing I'll style here is the button tag. And to style the button tag is very easy. I'm going to say banner desktop button. And I'll set the height to 80 pixels. And I'll set the width to 160 pixels. Let's view that and see what we have. Now, okay, not looking that bad still. And I'll set the border radius to 7 pixels. And I'll set the border to none. So let's reload our page to see what we have. And that. So I want to change the color of our button to something close to what we have now, which is this. Let me tweak that, copy that hex code, and I'd say background color set to that hex code I copied, and I'll set the color to white. Now let's save that. Let's reload our page to see what we have. And this looks better. So this is me using Bootstrap, HTML, and regular CSS to create a landing page. If you have an image, put something over here. If you have more content, put it over here. But this explains the concept that we have learned in this video. So I want you watching this video to create something more beautiful on that landing page. Then tag me on Twitter. This is my Twitter handle at Joe_Brendan_. Tag me with the screenshot of what you have created. So let's move over to our web browser and let's toggle this to a mobile phone screen size. Let's see what we have. As you can see, our navbar toggle is created already for us with Bootstrap, and that's cool. But what we have here is not properly aligned. So we are going to make this look better using the display property in Bootstrap. So using the display property to create a mobile display of my website, I would first of all copy this section, which is the banner section, and I'll place it right under here, and I'll change this banner ID to banner mobile, not banner desktop, and I'll still keep the height at 100 VH. Now the next thing is I'll need the display property class on this section to make sure it doesn't show up when my website is displayed on a mobile phone screen size. So coming over to Bootstrap website, I would search for display property and I'll go straight to the table and I'll look for hidden only on access. This means when my website is displayed on a mobile phone screen, this banner desktop will not show up. So I'm going to put that in a class and I'll paste this in. Always remember to take out those dots notations there. So I'll save this. Now let me go to my website, which is currently in mobile display, and let me refresh this. When I refresh this section that has all the colors and all the styles disappeared from our screen. Now what we have there is this. Now what I'll do is to style everything in here to stay in the center so that this is going to look cool on the mobile phone screen. So I'll come here in my VS Code and I'll set a margin top property for welcome, and I'll say text center. Also, when I save that, I go back to my page and I refresh. You see I have this, it's sitting at the center of the page, and I'll place everything at the center of the page there. I'll say text center and I'll refresh. You see, to continue is staying in the center. Now I am going to take out the button here because I don't want a button to be displayed when my website is displayed on a mobile phone screen. So that's the power of the display property in Bootstrap. Now when I refresh this, you see I don't have any button showing up anymore. Now something basic is already set to the center of the page. Now I can apply a new background color for when my website will be displayed on a mobile phone screen. So let's get something basic down a little bit. So to do that, we are going to come here and pass in a margin top class empty and set that to 5. Let's reload our page to see what we have. This is looking better for now. So let's give a background color to this section, which is to be displayed when our website is seen on the mobile phone screen. Let's pick this ID here, which is now banner mobile. Let's come in our CSS again and let's say banner mobile, and let's set the background color to something else. Let's come over to web color picker and let's pick something lighter for our mobile phone screens, and let's go back to CSS and let's say background color and let's paste that. So that's that. Let's go back to our mobile phone and let's reload our page. As you can see, we have this. So this is how our website will be displayed when it's on the mobile phone screen, and when I close this, this is how our website will be displayed when it's on a desktop, a laptop, or a television screen. So this is all we are going to learn in this Bootstrap video. For now, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share.